All right, we are here in beautiful, sunny Florida, and today, fight fans, we're going to be breaking down UFC Fight Night 120 in Norfolk, Virginia. Dustin Poirier versus Anthony Pettis. Just an amazing fight. Both these guys put on amazing fights. Dustin Poirier, I mean, he doesn't have a single boring fight in his resume. Anthony Pettis, it's interesting. This is going to be a big telling fight for him. He's had some real ups and downs the last couple of years. And I think this is a good test to see where he's at. Really excited for that fight, man. And when it comes to the rest of the fights, it's all right. It's just a solid fight night. And really, man, I do love this card from a betting perspective and a DK perspective as well. There's actually only 2 fights on this whole card that I don't have any kind of investment in between bets and DraftKings. But yeah, man. So 5 bets as of right now. That's probably what I'm going to stick at. There's one line that I'm looking at, and if it gets a little bit juicier, I feel like I have to play it if it gets a little bit better. But yeah, man, we're going to run down the whole 13 fight card here. Fortunately, I did come off another losing weekend. I lost 4 units, UFC 217 this past weekend. I had 7 units on Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Joanna Jędrzejczyk lost. Shit happens. Looking to bounce back here, man. Did have a couple plays that cashed, so, I went big on Paulo Borrachinha. So that helped my night not be any more disastrous than it could have been. But still, man, Joanna losing really, really stung for me. But, man, I am so solid on these 5 plays I got here. So let's start with the first fight of the night, man. We got Carl Robertson minus 220 taking on Darren Stewart plus 180. Darren Stewart has had probably the most interesting beginning to his UFC career than anybody. So he comes in, decent-sized underdog, like plus 130, plus 140 to Francis Barbosa in Brazil. Goes out there, whoops his ass in the first round. I guess you could say there was an illegal shot or some bullshit, and they called it a no contest. Barbosa quit in that fight, man. He was getting his ass whooped. So now he gets the rematch in his home country in the UK. He's going to beat Barbosa, minus 200. He gets his ass whooped for 3 rounds. It's crazy, man. That one stunned me quite a bit, but I think that just showed that Darren Stewart is kind of a real below average fighter. He's really nothing special. Now this kid Carl Robertson, between his amateur and pro MMA career, he is like 8-0, 9-0. I want to say 8 or 9 finishes, man. He goes out there and finishes dudes. He's got 3 decisions. 2 of them were in his Emmys. So 4 finishes out of 5 in his pro career, and he's going out there beating decent dudes. He knocked out Ryan Spann in the Contender Series, and Ryan Spann is a real solid regional guy. So that's a very impressive win. The dude's got real good striking. He's athletic. He's good size for the division. I think he probably has his way with Darren Stewart here. He probably knocks him out. Early. That all being said, I'm not looking to lay, what is he, minus 220 on the newcomer. I think, if anything, there might be a little value on him in DraftKings, because I think he probably can go out here and finish Darren Stewart in the first or second round and, pay off that price. He's not cheap. He's 8,800. Which is a lot cheaper than a lot of people in here. I think a couple people are a little inflated on DraftKings, but I do have a little bit of Robertson and DK, but no bets on this fight for me. Official pick, I'm going to say Carl Robertson, first round knockout. Now moving on to this one, man. This is one of the 2 fights I have no interest / I don't have anything riding on it. We got Marcel Fortuna plus minus 240 taking on Jake Collier plus 200. Do think this line's a bit off, man. I don't think Marcel Fortuna should be minus 200, minus 240 against just about anybody unless your name is Anthony Hamilton. Jake Collier, he's your below average middleweight / light heavyweight guy. This fight is at 205, right? Yeah, this fight's at 205. Jake Collier, he moved up to 205 a couple fights ago, but I think Marcel, he's probably the more technical, skilled guy, and that should carry him through. And I think I don't know if he can finish Jake Collier. I think if there's a finish in this fight, I think Collier probably hits him with something huge. I think Marcel Fortuna can land takedowns and outgrapple the guy. I think he might be able to smartly outstrike him. So I do get 100% why he's the favorite. I agree with that, but the line's just a little off for me. So passing on this fight altogether, I'm going to say Marcel Fortuna, 30-27 decision. Now moving on to this one, man. Not only is this the first play of the night for me, this is my biggest play. We got Sean Strickland minus 240 taking on Court McGee plus 200. Man, so what's there to say about this one? This one is really like my favorite angle when it comes to betting MMA. You got the guy on his way out who hasn't looked great lately versus the guy on his way up in his prime. And not only do we have a guy on his way up in his prime, we got Sean Strickland, man, who's 18-2, good size for the weight class. Really look at his only two losses, two top 10, maybe even arguably top 5 welterweights in Kamaru Usman, who decisioned him, didn't finish him, and Santiago Ponzinibbio, who decisioned him, didn't finish him. And that was actually a close fight, man. Sean Strickland had a lot of moments in that fight, and Santiago was just the sharper striker, but he bounced back from the Santiago fight, won 3 straight, and then his last fight, obviously, the Usman one. I personally believe Kamaru Usman is probably a top 2 or top 3 welterweight in the world. I think he's the most underrated fighter in MMA, and I did go huge on Usman in that fight. I max bet Usman. I'm max betting Sean Strickland here, man, and I'll tell you why. Court McGee is a guy I've been a fan of for a long, long time, but he's just, and he's really not even that old. He's only 32 years old, but he's old in the fight game, man, and you can really see it in the last few fights. So he took a long time off, like 2 years after the Ryan LaFleur loss. Came back against Marcio Alexandre, beat him, unanimous decision. Not the best fighter in the world, doesn't say a whole lot, but it's nice that he got back in there in the win column after 2 years away. Then he gets absolutely blitzed by Santiago Ponzinibbio, a guy who beat Sean Strickland as well, but that's 2 very different fights. Ponzinibbio dusted Court McGee, and he went life and death with Sean Strickland. Court comes back, gets another win, man. He bounced back after the loss. He gets a win over Dominique Steele, who, again, just like Marcio Alexandre, not the best fighter in the world. You're definitely bottom of the barrel welterweight. Then last fight out, fights Ben Saunders, and I was actually very solid on Court McGee in that fight. I really came close to betting him. I didn't. I thought he won the fight, but they gave the decision to Ben Saunders. It was a very, very close fight, but man, I don't think very highly of Ben Saunders. So for him to go out there and have a very close fight with him, I think that shows a lot. I think Sean Strickland would do Ben Saunders extremely dirty and put him away relatively quickly, because you do look at Sean Strickland's resume. He's got a win over Tom Breeze, who, he gave Tom Breeze his first L. Tom Breeze is one of the best prospects in MMA. He knocked out Alex Garcia. So you say what you want about Alex Garcia's cardio. He doesn't have heart. Man, Alex Garcia is a scary motherfucker. So for him to go out and finish a guy like that, that's still a nice feather in the cap. Other than that, man, I mean, you look at his UFC record. You got 5-2, really good, man. 18-2 overall. Sean Strickland trains at a good gym. I love this kid, man. I love the way he uses his jab. He's long with the jab. He's got real good takedown defense. Obviously, that didn't hold up in his last fight against Kamaru, just because Kamaru is an absolute beast. Really knew that would happen. And you look at another thing, man. This kid's 26 years old. He's arguably not even in his prime yet. I think this is Sean Strickland's breakout performance. I think Sean Strickland goes out there and dusts old man Court right out of the octagon, probably for good. I'm going to say he retires Court McGee here. I think he finishes him in the very first round. I think he peppers him up with jabs. Court goes for some takedowns, gets tired when they all get stuffed, and Sean Strickland puts him away with some big shots. I'll say 4.5 minutes into the round. And that being said, I do have 5 units on him, and I do have it in a 2-leg parlay, but it's it's a pretty safe little prop that I just used to beef up the line of Strickland. So it's not anything crazy. It's a pretty safe prop, but we'll get to that a little later. So 5 units on Sean Strickland, and obviously I did go decently big on him in DK as well. So yeah, first round knockout is the prediction. So then the second fight of the night, where I just have no invested interest in, and don't really have anything on it between DK and bets. We got Angela Hill. We got Angela Hill minus 200 taking on Nina Zaroff plus 170. It's funny, when I was looking at this fight a couple months ago, I was like, Nina's probably going to be a decent-sized dog here, and I kind of like that, man. I feel like Angela has a lot of holes in her game. Nina might be able to, especially training at ATT, she's so close to the Amanda Nunes. I feel like maybe she can put together a really good game plan and grapple with Angela Hill and beat her that way, but I don't really see that happening here, man. Nina Zaroff isn't really even that great of a wrestler. I mean, she's got taken down by girls that really also are not really that great of wrestlers. Obviously, Angela Hill has that hole in her game, and it wouldn't shock me if Nina did go in there and land takedowns, but Angela Hill, she's come a long way, man. She was able to defend the takedown. Andrade only went for 2 takedowns, but Angela did stuff. You can tell she's worked on that aspect of her game, and it's not even just the Andrade fight. It's the Invicta performances as well. Her championship 5-round fights in Invicta, she was stuffing takedowns. I think she can stuff takedowns here, and I think she's the much better striker than Nina Zaroff, pretty much. Angela, she keeps things nice and technical. Nina's kind of a brawler on the feet, doesn't really have any power, so, I mean, that's really not all that great anyway. She's kind of sloppy on the feet, man, and Angela Hill is a lot more technical. She's probably going to kick Nina. She's probably going to punch Nina, and she's probably going to win a 30-27. So I got Angela Hill here. I'll say a 30-27 decision, but I have nothing invested in this fight. But a fight I do have something invested in, man, and I'm excited to talk about this one because we got Sage Northcutt minus 170 taking on Mitchell Quinones plus 150. So I'm going to come out and say it, man. I have 2 units on Mitchell Quinones at plus 150, and I also have 1 unit on the under 1.5 rounds at plus 135. So what is Sage Northcutt? Let's start with that. Sage Northcutt, I want to say the kid's still 21 years old. I mean, this is a guy that's younger than me, for crying out loud. And, looking at his resume, man, his UFC resume, he's really kind of just a one-hit wonder. He just had that one good performance, and I think that gave him way more hype than he deserved. And I mean, this is Francisco Trinaldo he had that one good performance against. So comes in, UFC debut, starches Trevino. Next fight, Cody Pfister. He's getting taken down easily by Cody Pfister. Keep in mind, he's minus 950 in this fight. Cody Pfister was taking him down at ease. It looked like Cody Pfister was on his way to winning a decision. The referee helped Sage out a little bit there with some unnecessary get-ups. I mean, Pfister was working. I disagree with the stand-ups there. I thought Cody was robbed of that top position, but Sage got it back up to the feet, not submitted Cody Pfister. So is what it is there. Next fight gets tooled by Brian Barberena. He taps out to I don't want to say like a non-existent choke, but that was a submission that I think 99% of the rest of the roster would not tap out to. He panicked there. It was something he never experienced before. He didn't show any heart whatsoever. He felt a little bit of a squeeze. He tapped. Next fight, Enrique Marin, the runner-up of Tough Latin America, guy from Spain. Not a very good fighter. Sage comes in, minus 500 in that fight. Wins a very, very close decision. Could have easily went to Marin. So the fact that he's having dead splits, even at decisions with guys like Enrique Marin, still shows that this kid's insanely green, and there's nothing special there. Then the last fight, man, which might be the worst performance of them all, comes in against Mickey Gall, who at this point, Mickey Gall has never been in there with a real fighter. His 2 fights before that, Mike Jackson, the reporter, CM Punk, the actor. And then Mickey Gall goes in there and he drops Sage Northcutt on the feet with his extremely loopy, ugly punches. He dropped Sage Northcutt. And we saw how bad McGee striking is in that Randy Brown fight that just happened last week. It's no good. So the fact that Sage is getting dropped by guys like that and submitted by guys like that, it still shows, man. And now you got Mitchell Quinones. So obviously, most of you guys just know him for his one UFC fight against Jared Gordon, where he got his ass absolutely kicked. So the first thing about that fight, Jared Gordon, he's an absolute beast, man. So Jared Gordon just went out there and like 30-25 Cochran Diaz. So no shame in losing to a guy like that in your UFC debut. Not only that, man, Mitchell Quinones got that fight call like 3 weeks notice. He was 180 pounds, cut a shit ton of weight. And he said once the second round started, he just couldn't feel like his body or his legs. I forgot what he said, but it just wasn't a good fight for him, man. But it's good that he got that UFC experience under him. But look what he did before that, man. I mean, he put together a nice 8-1 record before the loss. He unanimous decision 30-27 to 6-0 guy in Titan FC. He knocked out Billy Quarantillo in the first round, who's once again a very good regional guy. And before that, man, he's just put together a nice string of finishes. He's knocking out dudes with decent records. And his only other loss in his 4th pro MMA fight ever, he fought Brandon Gertz in Bellator 180. Keep in mind, Brandon Gertz is a seasoned vet by then. He's already double-digit fights into his career. 4th fight in, he goes 3 rounds with Gertz. He loses the fight, but he goes 3 rounds with the guy. So what I see from Mitchell Quinones, I see a guy who is absolutely skilled and seasoned enough to take advantage of an extremely green fighter in Sage Northcutt. So I think Mitchell Quinones goes out here, lights Sage up on the feet, lands takedowns, does really whatever he wants to do to him. I think Mitchell can win this fight any way he chooses to. Obviously, Sage's best weapons are his striking. He's pretty lethal there. I mean, he does have a sub 1 minute KO in the UFC. So I would advise Mitchell to try to take this fight down to the ground. I doubt that's going to happen. We're probably going to see some fists thrown, man. And that being said, somebody's probably going to go down early. That explains my play on the 1 unit on the under 1.5. I think somebody's going to go down early. And then to explain my 2 unit play on Mitchell Quinones, I mean, I just said it, man. This guy is way more good enough to take out an extremely green fighter like Sage Northcutt. So I have 3 units on this fight, 2 on Mitchell, 1 on the under, all at dog money. I like it a lot, man. Super excited about this fight. And obviously, Mitchell is a great price on DK as well, so I do have a lot of him on DK. Big fight for me. Go Mitchell. I say first round KO. So next fight up, man, we got Tatiana Suarez, minus 275, taking on Viviane Paella, plus 235. Now, this is the line that I was talking about earlier, that if it gets a little better, I might have to play it, man. Viviane Paella should not be plus 235 here, man. Well, first of all, she has a clear striking advantage. Like, it's really not even close. Viviane's striking is levels ahead of Tatiana. And the experience, Tatiana Suarez is 4-0. Viviane Paella is 13-0. Not only that, Viviane has been in there with better girls as well. Tatiana's lone UFC fight is against 1-2 Amanda Bobby Cooper. Viviane Paella has been in there with Valerie Letourneau, who went 5 rounds with now the former champ, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And she went out there and unanimous decision Jamie Moyle, who Jamie Moyle has a win in the UFC. She's not the worst in the world. So Viviane, she's short, she's stocky. I've been thinking maybe just that the short, stocky body that she has, maybe she'll be strong enough to be able to defend the takedowns of Tatiana. Now, Tatiana's got a huge size advantage here. She's like 5 inches taller, and she's just the bigger, stronger girl. I feel like Viviane, I would assume that she has sharpened her takedown defense game, and she's technical enough to make it tough for Tatiana, and it's probably going to be a fight that Tatiana has never had before. She's used to going out there, taking girls down at will and submitting them. How is she going to react when Viviane Paella gives her problems? Because she's going to give her problems. So I don't know, man. I could see a situation where Tatiana gasses out going for 20 takedowns in the first round, and Viviani pieces her up in the second and third round. I mean, I really could see it. It's tough to say. I'm going to pick Viviani. I'm holding off on a bet. I'm probably going to end up doing it. I do have a little bit of her in DK, but I think she can do it, man. I think she can stuff takedowns, and she's the better striker, so she's going to win those striking exchanges, and the experience is going to play a big role as well. I'll go with Viviani Paella, 29-28 decision, and holding off on a bet right now, but I probably will go in on that. So next fight, man, I'm super stoked about this one. This might be the fight that I'm looking forward to second most on the card, honestly. So we got John Dodson, -110, taking on Marlon Morais, -110. So we got pick'em odds here. I'd say that's probably about right. I honestly do see more people favoring Dodson. I've seen Dodson picked a lot more. I've seen a lot more Dodson bets, but I favor Marlon Morais here, and I think the size is going to be a big thing. And I think John Dodson, his lack of inactivity in his last fight against Eddie Wineland, that was like really, because I went huge on Dodson in that fight, and it was frustrating the shit out of me how little he was throwing and how much more he could have done. And I don't know, man. I feel like he was a little worried that Eddie Wineland had, Eddie Wineland's a much bigger guy. He's got pop in his punch. I think he was worried about getting hit there, man. Marlon Morais is a huge step up from Eddie Wineland. So look at what John Dodson's done since he came back down to bantamweight. So he lost to Demetrius at flyweight. He makes his bantamweight return against Manny Gambierian, knocks him on the first round. It's Manny Gambierian. He retired like 6 months later. Loses to John Lineker, another flyweight, and then beats Eddie Wineland, who's bantamweight on his way out. Now he's fighting the very first prime real bantamweight. I'll say that because John Lineker isn't a real bantamweight. He's a flyweight. This is the real first real bantamweight in his prime that Dodson is fighting since coming back to 135 pounds. I know he has a first round knockout at 135 against the current 135 pound champ, but that was 6 years ago, man. Things have changed. And not only that, Marlon Morais is super fucking impressive, dude. He's super lethal. He's super technical, man. Good size for the weight class. Obviously training at one of the best camps in the world. And it's not just that he was beating jobbers over in WSOF. He was beating good fucking fighters, man, like Shaman Morais. And his last win, this dude, Jose Aldo Silva, that guy's 25-4. I mean, and he smoked the dude. He beat Miguel Torres back in the day. Marlon Morais is super impressive. I thought he won the Sun South fight. Either way, it was super close. So to go out there and have a close fight with someone like a Sun South, I mean, that shows a lot. And that was his UFC debut as well. I would 100% pick Marlon in the rematch against the Sun South for sure. That being said, John Dodson's such a quick little fucker, and I think he can just run around, bounce around, and jab this dude up and kick him and do all kinds of John Dodson stuff. The speed advantage is really probably going to be key here for John Dodson. So I don't know, man. Whoever can make it their fight is going to win this fight, and I think Marlon is going to be able to make it his fight. John Dodson really, he made it a lot closer against Eddie Wineland than he should have. I mean, it was a clear 30-27, but he could have done so much more, and it was really frustrating. But I'm gonna go with Marlon. I'm gonna say 29-28 decision. I just have a tiny bit of him in DraftKings, just one lineup, just because he's such a good price on there. But I'm gonna go with Marlon. No bet though. So moving on to this next fight, battle of two real legend staples of the UFC lightweight division. We got Clay the Carpenter Guida, -120, taking on Joe Lauzon, +100. I think this one's kind of a simple breakdown, honestly. The most clear thing here is the cardio advantage of Clay Guida. That dude pushes an insane pace, man, and he can go for days. And the thing about Joe Lauzon is he kind of gasses out in most of his fights. And if he gasses out here, he's going to lose the second and third round. Maybe the second round. It depends how that first round goes, man. And I'm going to pick indeed. I'm going to pick Joe Lauzon, winning in the first round by knockout, man, because Clay Guida got finished in the first round by Thiago Tavares, man, at 145 pounds. I mean, this guy, he goes out there and beats Eric Koch. I mean, Clay Guida is just a very unpredictable fighter, which makes this fight extremely hard to bet on. Basically, when it comes down to it, it's going to be one of two things. Joe Lauzon's going to go out there, starch him quick, or Clay Guida's probably going to win the second and third rounds. I say if Guida gets past the first round, he probably wins. But I'm going to pick the Lauzon first round KO just for the hell of it. I have, once again, just a little bit of Lauzon. I have him in one lineup because obviously he's a decent price. But yeah, man, I'm going to go with J-Lo. First round knockout. So moving on here, man, this is another play for me. We got Rafael Assunção minus 335 taking on Matthew Lopez plus 275. I like Assunção here, man. I like him a lot. So Matthew Lopez, he's impressed me so far in the UFC, man. But Rafael Assunção, well, Rafael Assunção is probably one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC. I mean, I don't even know where to start with this guy, man. I mean, he has a win over TJ Dillashaw. He has a win over Pedro Munoz, a win over Brian Caraway, a win over Marlon Morais, a win over Aljamain Sterling. I mean, this dude just constantly is beating really good fighters. I mean, his only loss in the last 5-6 years is against TJ Dillashaw. And that was, I don't want to say it was a close fight. TJ clearly won it, but he didn't get blown out of the water by any means. So, I mean, the fact that Matthew Lopez is probably the most, I don't want to say low level, the lowest level fighter he's fought in a few years now. I think this might be a walk in the park for him, and I think he should just soundly outstrike Matthew Lopez. I think he can mix up takedowns. I think he can beat the guy up. I just think this is a case of Matthew Lopez not being ready. And it's not even just that, man. I really don't see anything from Matthew Lopez that shows me he can be a top 5, top 10 guy anyway. He's probably your top 15 at the best, like number 15 around there. Lost to Yaya on his debut. It's his debut. I'll give him a pass there. Beats Mitch Gagnon, but scary moment for him there when he almost got knocked out. And then he took care of business against Johnny Eduardo. But we know Johnny Old Man Eduardo is more than on his way out. So I got Assunção pretty solidly here, man. And the thing about Assunção, he doesn't really finish fights. So I think this fight does probably go 3 rounds. That being said, I think the line on Assunção is a little too high for my liking. And since I don't see a whole lot of ways he finishes this fight, I put 2 units on Rafael Assunção to win via decision at minus 145. So 2 units at minus 145 there. Rafael Assunção wins by decision. And that is my pick. I'm going to say Assunção 30-27 decision. So moving on to this fight, man. We got Nate, the Great Marquardt, plus 240, taking on Cesar Paella, minus 280. I think the line's a little bit off, man. I think there's some value in Nate Marquardt at plus 240, to be quite honest. And I was thinking about Cesar before the lines came out, but I didn't think he would be this much of a favorite. That all being said, the prop to finish off that 5-unit parlay with Sean Strickland is not Nate Marquardt wins by decision. So any other outcome than Nate Marquardt winning by decision, I'm solid here. Cesar wins, I'm good. Nate finishes him, I'm good. And I think that's the only way Nate wins. I think the only way he wins is to land a big shot to put him away. Obviously, Cesar's had some chin problems in the past. Now, in my opinion, I think at this point in their careers, Cesar is probably 2-3 times the fighter Nate Marquardt is. He's a bigger middleweight. Nate Marquardt's a guy who used to fight at 170. I think Cesar's going to have some size here. At this point, I think he has the better striking. At this point, I think he has the better grappling. And, he's the younger guy, and I think he should probably murk Nate Marquardt here. The only way I see Marquardt winning this fight, he's not going to outpoint Cesar for 3 rounds here. It's not going to happen. He might knock him out because Cesar has a shit chin, let's be honest here. So I'd stay away from parlaying Cesar. I would pass on Nate Marquardt. This is a big pass for me, but I like the prop of not Nate wins by decision. So 5 units on Sean Strickland, parlayed with not Nate wins by decision. I have that at minus 195. In my official prediction, I'm going to say Cesar gets it done, and I think he finishes Nate. I'm going to say Cesar, second round TKO. Now, moving on to this next fight, man, we got Junior Albini now minus 300 taking on Andre Arlovski plus 250. I do have a little bit of Albini in DK. Actually, I have a decent amount of Junior Albini in DK. What am I talking about? I have a good amount of him because if he wins this fight, it's going to be because he touched the chin of Andre Arlovski early, man. And I wouldn't advise taking the shot on Andre. Plus 250 is a nice little line, but you can't trust him, man. One of two things is going to happen here. Either Junior is going to touch his chin and he's going to go down, or Andre Arlovski is going to touch Junior's chin and he's going to go down, or that veteran experience might let Arlovski win a 3-round decision. Junior, I mean, this is really only Junior's second fight in the UFC. I think if it goes to those later rounds, it might get a little dirty for him, and Andre might be able to squeak out a decision, but the most likely outcome here, 150%, is Junior Albini winning by first-round knockout. He's a real good striker. He cost me big time last time. I lost a max bet on Timothy Johnson. I max bet Tim Johnson against Junior Albini. Junior Albini goes out and knocks him out. Nobody's ever knocked out Tim Johnson before. So, I mean, the dude's obviously very talented. He's young, and I think that'll be key. I think the size, speed, and the youth are going to be key here, and he's going to touch that really glass chin of Arlovski. So, first-round knockout for Junior Albini is my prediction. No bets here, but I do have a lot of Albini in DK. So next fight here, man, we got Diego Sanchez plus 280 taking on Matt the Immortal Brown minus 340. So it's funny, before the odds even came out on this, I've been eyeing down Matt Brown for like months now. Like this is something I've wanted to bet on for a really, really long time. Like Matt Brown over Diego all day. There's no way Diego wins this fight. And now that the line comes out and it's so high, and I'm thinking about ways the fight could play out, I'm a little less confident in Matt Brown now. So I did end up passing on this fight altogether. Highly wouldn't recommend taking the shot on Diego, and I'd be very careful parlaying Matt Brown here at minus 340. I mean, we can't forget this is a guy that got finished in the first round by Jake Ellenberger not too long ago, and we know how far gone Jake Ellenberger is. So I'd be very careful here, man. I think Diego could just go savage mode and just knock Matt Brown out. I mean, Matt Brown's taken a lot of damage lately, man. And Diego Sanchez, he's got less of a weight cut than Matt Brown is. I'm sure Diego's barely got any weight to cut here. Matt Brown's doing his normal big weight cut down to 170. Maybe Diego's the fresher guy in there, man, and maybe he can land takedowns even though he's the smaller guy. So I've swapped big time on this fight. Pre-odds, I was all Matt Brown, and now post-odds, I'm like, this is just the biggest pass ever. So I'm passing on this fight. I have a little bit of Matt Brown in DK. I'm not going to lie, because I do think if he wins, he probably gets Diego out of there early. We've seen Diego get knocked out pretty early a couple times recently, like Joe Lauzon and Ally Quinta. So you never know. My pick is Matt Brown first round knockout, but I'm just hoping for a good fight. Honestly, man. I mean, these guys are two legends, so hoping for a good fight here. Matt Brown first round knockout is the pick. No bet. Now, moving on to the main event of the evening. Super excited about this one. I've had this bet for I want to say I've had this bet for close to 3 months now. The odds have been out on it for a while. So we got Anthony Pettis minus 125 taking on Dustin Poirier plus 105. Yeah, man. So I've been eyeing this down for a long time. I've had the bet in play for like 2-3 months now. Two 2.5 units on Dustin the Diamond Poirier at plus 100. I feel like at this point, Anthony Pettis is so far gone from what he used to be. You look on that little string of losses he went there, that was, I mean, in even the win defending his title against Gilbert Melendez. Gilbert Melendez was having a lot of success in that fight with pushing him against the cage and making it an ugly fight, and Pettis pulled out a very nice submission there in the second round. But after the Gilbert fight, he got his ass whooped by Dos Anjos. Had just a terrible fight with Eddie Alvarez in which he lost, and he got outstruck big time by Edson Barboza. Beat Charles Oliveira in his featherweight debut, but that was not an easy fight for him, man. He went through some shit in that fight, almost getting tapped out. Got his ass absolutely whooped by Max Holloway. And then in his last fight, he got the win back in the W column at 155 against Jim Miller, but man, I think we all truly know deep down in our hearts that prime Anthony Pettis finishes Jim Miller 100%. The fact that you win 3 rounds with Jim Miller, it shows that it's not the same guy. And I know Dustin Poirier is a guy who went he won 3 rounds with Jim Miller too, but Poirier took more damage in that Miller fight than Pettis did, but that's just a matchup thing, man. Just because Dustin Poirier is way more of a wild motherfucker, and he made the mistake of getting into a wild fucking fight with Jim Miller, and you don't get into wild fucking fights with Jim Miller. And that all being said, Dustin Poirier still got the job done there. And let's look at his last fight, man. He went out there and he whooped Eddie Alvarez's ass, and he was on his way to winning that fight until the unfortunate illegal shot. Dustin would completely whoop Eddie's ass in a rematch. Let me just say that, man. It was so clear how much better he was than Eddie Alvarez at this point. And I think at this point he's way better than Anthony Pettis. I think both guys are going to come in. You know, Dustin's going to make it the fun fight that he always does. And I think both guys are going to land. I just think Dustin's going to eat the shots better. I mean, if I had to say, I would say Anthony has the better chin. Dustin, you know, he's gone down more than a few times, but I think Dustin will show more heart, and I think he'll overcome adversity here. I think he's going to go through some shit in the first round, and I think he gets the second round knockout. I'm going to go with Dustin Poirier, second round knockout over Anthony Pettis. I think it might be a little scary at first, but I think we're going to see something a little similar to maybe the Justin Gaethje Michael Johnson fight, where you know, Pettis similar to Michael Johnson is just landing all kinds of shots, putting the guy down, and then Gaethje didn't go away, and I don't think Dustin Poirier is going to go away. And I think when it comes to the second round, the heart of Poirier will show, and Anthony Pettis is going to get frustrated that he can't put this guy away, and Dustin's going to do the damn thing and get it done, man. I think Dustin is going to get I'm going to say a Darce for good old times. Missed that Dustin Poirier is the last Darce choke he got. Let me see. I can't even remember, man. I think it was the Brookins fight, but we haven't seen a Dustin Poirier Darce choke in quite a while. And a lot of people were optimistic and hoping we'd see a Poirier Darce choke against Michael Johnson, but obviously you got starched there. But I'm going to say Dustin Poirier wins by Darce choke in the second round. 2.5 units at plus 100 to win 2.50. Let's go, man. So obviously looking to get back on track, and I'm super solid about it. And obviously I have a lot of Dustin in DK. He's a great price, and I think he gets a finish. So it's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe, like, do all the good stuff. So thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the fights this weekend.